Hi everyone, welcome to Potluck Food Talks. Today we're going to talk about soups. So what's the deal with soups, Phil?
Soups. I don't know. Soups are tasty. Soups are good for you. Soups are really good for you.
Do you have any favorite soups or moments where you really think that you would like to have a soup?
I have them saved in my memory under soup moments.
Oh, really?
No.
I was going to say I have the same, when it's rainy and sad, you really feel like having a chicken soup for the soul, no?
Yeah, I do have favorite soups. I particularly like gazpacho and salmorejo. I know they're different, and I like ajo blanco, that direction.
Yeah.
And although I'll probably be chased with pitchforks, I think they kind of fall in the same category as sort of like fresh, chilled, tangy, vegetable-based soups.
Okay, like a cold cream soup, but with cooked vegetables. That's what you mean?
Yeah, but not necessarily with cream. But I do sort of like chilled vegetable soups, like especially in like late spring and summer a lot,
Like a cold vichyssoise, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. Like whether it's cucumber of really like a sort of like really sharp cold cucumber soup.
Yeah, like this on, I think it's from Hungary. I think it's called tarator. That is like a cucumber yogurt mint soup, a cold one.
I didn't know this, but that sounds delicious. Yeah, something like that, Or like I used to make one out of
Well, now that I just checked for it, and it's actually a sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a sauce or a... No, it is a soup. It is a soup. Yeah. And it's from Bulgaria, not Hungary.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, a sauce with enough imagination can become a soup, if you're brave enough.
Sure. Yeah, or a cream soup. If you just make it thicker, it can become a puree, Like it's just a matter of consistency, of texture.
Yeah.
You don't seem to agree on that.
No, of course, absolutely. I think the line between making something thinner and drinking it as a soup rather than a sauce, it can very quickly go from this is a really good idea to you're a psychopath. I think if you start drinking gravy or vanilla sauce, creme anglaise, as some people might maybe, suggest. Fingers pointed.
But I mean, if you add water to a gravy, that will become kind of like a stock, right? That you can use as a soup base. It's not like the most orthodoxical thing or best idea, but
I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing, Like I agree with your theory, but the practical side kind of makes me, if I saw somebody do that, just be like, I'm just going to take this gravy and just put some water. Now it's soup, and then drinks it. I'd be like,
add some water and some vegetables.
I don't know. I'd slowly move away towards the nearest exit.
But I mean, also purees. It's super common here in Spain that you call purees a very thick soup, and you eat it with the spoon like like from a bowl.
Like a potaje.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. I have to tell you, I grew up in Spain eating potaje de verdura in the school canteen, and I'm still traumatized by that. Like, because they used to force you to eat everything, and like it was like just this bland, horrible brown sludge of cooked vegetables. It was really, really awful. And still to this day, because the potaje can be really nice, but like when I smell like potaje, I'm like, I get shivers.
But going back to gazpacho, do you have any like hints or tips on how to make gazpacho or any preferences?
What I do often, I take the ingredients and I marinate them. So like for example, if I have like tomatoes and stuff, or I say I have tomatoes, garlic, spring onion, like I'm just making something up, spring onion, blah, blah, blah. And say, I don't know, some herb, coriander, a little bit of coriander or whatever. I know it's not traditional, so don't come after me, but...
Oh, the paella Nazis are listening right now.
Yeah.
They're going to Jamie Oliver use.
I think, yeah, exactly. So we need a Spanish version of Uncle Roger. Spanish version was sort of like, no, what's he doing? Yeah, anyway, but like I take the ingredients, I cut them and I like marinate them in a bowl. So like I'll add the salt, maybe some sugar, a dash of vinegar, and I'll just let them macerate before I blitz them all and stuff. That's what I do, you know, even with the olive oil and everything that I'm going to add, maybe not the bread, but yeah, that's what I do. And I feel like it kind of releases the juices from the vegetables and kind of helps it.
Yeah, that's a very good practice to do that. Like with gazpacho, I have like something that I've learned that people from abroad usually do wrong is that adding too much of everything. You know, like I think a gazpacho should be like 80% tomato or your base. If you're making it with strawberries or watermelon or whatever, that should be like at least 80%. And things like onion and garlic, that should be like super little, like almost nothing. Because I've seen people like adding a whole onion and a whole cucumber, and then you have like this mixed salad, and okay, that can be super healthy, but it doesn't get the right taste of a gazpacho, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a whole onion is just like you want to add accents of stuff, you know?
Exactly. And here, the ones that you can buy from the supermarket, I really like the one that is without cucumber. For some reason, I think it just tastes better. Like, I don't know why. It has like less bitterness. And the other thing that I think it's, for me, it's relevant for a gazpacho to get like the distinctive flavor is the sherry vinegar, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I think this like tart vinegar, like touch is really important. Gazpacho really is a thing that really is made or broken by seasoning it correctly, I think. Also, like in a gazpacho, it's really important that you push the salt and you push the vinegar spike and that everything's kind of like in balance. Because otherwise it's just kind of like a little bit like meh. But like I've eaten gazpachos where it really like made me stop and I was like, man, this is so delicious, you know? And with those simple things, that's like the coolest thing. If you eat something like a salmorejo, you know, which is like almost no ingredients, you know, and you eat it and you're like, man, this is absolutely delicious. And it's just because it's made really well and seasoned really, really well.
And what about doing gazpachos with cooked vegetables? Have you done that ever? Like cooked tomatoes or these kind of things, and then seasoning it like a gazpacho, and you have like a cold soup, but with cooked vegetables, which is like something where the gazpacho Nazis go really crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's like a valid cold soup.
I have done that actually, and with like really good results. Also, like the one thing that I can remember, I made a gazpacho where I used part just like normal raw tomatoes and then a big part of roasted red peppers that I just like brushed with olive oil, salt, and just like roasted in the oven until they were really kind of like soft and mushy caramelized. And that gave a super nice sweetness and really nice like roasted pepper flavor afterwards. It works really, really well.
Yeah, well, the first restaurant where I worked, we would like do like this kind of gazpacho, but just for the reason that it would last longer. That was the only criteria behind it.
Oh yeah.
It was just like like a business decision.
Yeah.
What about Asia? I was traveling in Asia with John Regenfeld, and I remember we were eating this noodle soup and some street food vendor place. And I remember him saying, this is so underrated in Europe. Like just having like a nice, like a nice broth, strong flavor with noodles, and that's it. There's your soup,
Yeah.
And there are millions of variations that you can do with that.
Yeah, for sure. Like Asia has such a crazy soup culture, you know. If you think of pho, with these amazing like beef broths and or like China, which they're like a million different soups and broths. But in like Japan, I had that experience in Japan where I really sort of like discovered like the dashi culture.
Oh yeah.
And where I remember like the beginning time when I moved to Japan, because also the temperature is different. Soups are served boiling hot in Japan, or they should be anyway. Just like you take this boiling broth and you take the first sip and it like goes through your entire body, like that feeling. And that's something that is really ingrained in like, I feel like in the Asian cooking culture, like mentality that is kind of missing in the Western world, I mean, in Japanese, like, sort of kaiseki restaurants, you have the dashi course, the soup course, where often you get like an ichiban dashi. Dashi being like
that's the cold one.
No. The Ichiban dashi is so when you have katsubushi, the first infusion. Because often you can do one infusion, you strain it off. You can do a second infusion, which then often is used for cooking.
Exactly. Is it the strongest, the purest dashi? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And, where the dishes are kept super, super simple. And I mean, the dashi, there's, it's so simple. There's hardly any ingredients in there. But exactly because of that, the balance, the products, the ingredients and the execution, they have to be perfect. I mean, anybody who's tried to make dashi at home and has never done it has probably had a really difficult time replicating a dashi that they've had at a restaurant because it's just not that easy, right? Because it's very fickle. It can go wrong really easily and you need to have really good ingredients. You need to understand those ingredients. And if you don't get the balance right, suddenly you have this really horrible broth.
Yeah, and also dashi is so versatile. Have you ever done risotto with dashi or these kind of things?
Oh, well, a risotto with dashi? Probably. I've done a beurre blanc with dashi, like a katsuobushi beurre blanc. That was quite nice.
Oh, nice. That sounds really good.
With this little smoky ham flavor of the katsuobushi.
When I was in Mugaritz, they had this dish. It was a piece of foie gras on a dashi broth with raw cherries on top. That was fucking amazing.
Oh, that sounds really good. That sounds nice.
Yeah. Well, in Germany, when I was working in restaurants in Berlin, it was super common to have a daily soup in a restaurant. That's super common to have that. And it's usually this cream soup.
Yeah.
Just a very liquid puree. And Germans love it with cream.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm not such a fan of of these creams. And there was also this time where they would call it cappuccino and put some, this air on top of the cream soup, like a mushroom cappuccino and these kind of things.
Honestly, there was a time in fine dining when you arrived at the table, the first course or the amuse-bouche that you would get would be a cream soup that was foamed up in a little espresso cup.
Exactly.
And I have to say that I really liked that. Yeah, I do. It was often really terrible. But I remember a situation where I was a kid when my parents took me to nicer restaurants where we had those soups and a nicely made cream soup, for example, a celeriac cream soup, right? Or a nice leek or a nice vichyssoise, but nicely made, good texture, really fine, really nicely seasoned, and then foamed up and you drink it and you're and it just coats your mouth and it's just delicious. And I think it's really cool. I like it. I think we should bring back the cappuccino.
And also these creams, these are so incredibly easy to do. It's just basically just boiling some vegetables and creaming them up. I just recently did a celeriac cream soup with potatoes and truffle and that's one of my battle.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah. I always do that for when I have the ingredients available, for celebrations and so on. People go crazy because it's something completely different and aromatic.
I mean, that's a winning combination. It's such a classic combination. Celeriac, potato, and truffle is so good. When I was at the Basque Culinary Center, I recreated this dish from Daniel Berlin in Sweden, where he has the celeriac that he roasts for hours and hours and hours until it's super black. And he serves that with a sauce that's made from the celeriac from the day before, roasted celeriac and blah. And I made this because it's grilled, it's a little bit smoky. And I made this really classic sort of sauce, sweating down leeks and onions and a little bit of garlic, the celeriac in there, a stock made from the celeriac skins. And then just a dash of cream, made it really light. So when you foam it up, it's really frothy. And man, and just that, it's a thing that kind of okay, you can make a celeriac cream soup, but if you get the base nice and you cook it nicely, a soup can be amazing. It's like making sauces. It's easier than making sauces, but it's the same thing where it's sort of if you get the balance right, it's just super, super nice.
Exactly. It's just understanding the balance. For instance, this celeriac cream soup, I usually make at least 70% celeriac to 30 potatoes, that kind of balance. What about fish soups? That's a complete new world, a different world, from what we've been talking so far.
Yeah.
Have you tried the fish soup from El Cano?
I've never been to El Cano.
Ah, you haven't? Oh, okay. Well, they give you this fish soup that is dark brown. It's from roasted fish bones from all the fish they have, and it's like a super deep fish flavor. It's incredible. It's like a must if you go there.
Oh, that sounds really good.
And also all these bones are roasted and charcoal, which makes it even better.
That sounds super nice. Yeah, I love, like making a good fish soup is not easy. I think it's one of the most difficult soups to make. Like making a nice bouillabaisse, I think it's not easy at all. And you never see that in restaurants anymore. I mean, you live in a place where, you're spoiled by good seafood and lots of seafood restaurants. But like, I feel like restaurants nowadays that are not at the coast, like you never see a fish soup anymore. It's a shame.
Yeah, and a bouillabaisse is also like an expensive soup.
Yeah.
Like if you want to get a good one in Marseille, I haven't been there, but I have a friend that is from there, and he told me like you have to pay quite some money for it.
Yeah, which it shouldn't be, because it used to be leftover, like not leftover fish, but like rockfish,
Exactly, but like a proper one, you should be using like many different types of fishes, and also saffron, and also the know-how, like you're charging for all of these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, but also like making like we used to make like a fake bouillabaisse in the same restaurant where we would make gazpacho with cooked vegetables, and this one we would like, it was basically kind of like a cream soup with different vegetables, and when the fish bones and everything, then we would like blend it and strain it, and then bring it up to point with pastis.
Mm.
And I remember that with that soup is where I learned to put salt, like where you add and taste until you have the proper amount. Also the point of, spiciness. This one had a little bit of hot sauce, which is not French at all, but this was like a Caribbean bouillabaisse.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that was like a super interesting process. And this also reminds me, one of my favorite soups in the world is like a Peruvian shrimp soup called chupe.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something similar that I just explained, like where you blend all the heads of the shrimps or langoustines or whatever you're using, the crustaceans you're using, and then strain it, and you have like this powerful crustacean soup, which is amazing.
Like a bisque.
Yeah, exactly. Like a Peruvian bisque, basically.
Ah, that's amazing. That's super nice. Bisque, also one of my... bisque is not really a soup. It's more like a sauce. But no? Don't you think?
I mean, like, it's a matter of use, right? If you eat a sauce like a soup, it becomes a soup, no?
That's very debatable, I think. It's like me saying, like, hey, my favorite soup is if I leave a tub of, chunky peanut butter Ben & Jerry's out on the counter, and then I put a straw in it and drink it. That's my favorite soup.
Where's the line between a tomato sauce and a tomato soup?
What is the line?
No, you run out of arguments.
It's mental stability. That's the line, like.
What about sweet sauces? Have you ever used like a creme anglaise, like a sweet soup, where you put like, I don't know, like a pear cooked in wine in the middle, and you have like the soup around?
Yeah, but is it a soup or is it a sauce? That's the thing. Because I've definitely put vanilla sauce around a poached pear. I've done that. But I would never call it a soup.
I mean, the moment where you need a spoon to eat it, it becomes a soup.
I don't know. If somebody asked me, it's like, I really feel like eating soup. Could you bring me a soup? And I'll bring them an eel flottant with, or profiterole with chocolate sauce. That's not a soup.
I mean, well, first of all, I like this analogies of savory courses in the sweet world are just that, analogies, where you call an ice cream sandwich or, like this kind of things. Of course, it's not really a sandwich, it's like
true.
Just
yeah, of course. What are words anyway, And most importantly, you do whatever you feel like you want to do, No, don't let anybody judge you for drinking melted ice cream or watered down tomato ketchup. If that's what you want to do, then do it.
Watered down tomato ketchup.
But I've actually had a sweet soup, which was actually a soup in Budapest.
Okay.
Which I had never seen like that, and which was absolutely delicious. The German dish rote Grütze?
It sounds rings a bell, but I'm not sure.
So it's basically like a mix of red fruit that's cooked and thickened.
Yeah.
Often it's thickened with tapioca pearls. So you have like tapioca pearls in the mix. It's like thick. You usually eat it with vanilla sauce. And in Budapest, I had something that was similar to that. So it was like red fruit that were kind of cooked in the like cooking liquids, which was like a little bit clear and slightly thickened and chilled.
Okay.
And if I recall correctly, you ate that with, I want to say vanilla ice cream, but I don't really remember. But the thing is that it was not a sauce. It was definitely a soup because of the consistency. You couldn't have called it a sauce. But this like very sweet, but yet fresh, acidic soup, really chilled down of like berries and fruit. It was really, really delicious and really refreshing. And I had never seen a sweet soup like that.
Well, also in this recent trip to Asia, we had like our first dinner was in a Cantonese restaurant in Singapore. And for dessert, there was like this also kind of like a sweet soup. It was like a kind of like a aromatized syrup with candied fruits inside.
Oh, yeah.
So you would eat it with a spoon, something like a typical Chinese dessert. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's really nice also. And I mean, I guess, now thinking about it, but they often have a similar thing in Japan with the azuki beans.
Oh, yeah.
In a sort of sweet soup, syrupy sort of situation, which is very nice. Yeah.
What about all this bean stews? Would you call that a soup? Like having, like black beans and you're eating them with a spoon on a...
I mean, a stew is not a soup. Not necessarily.
I mean, but you know what I mean? Like alubias, like black beans, like...
It really depends, like it's hard to pin down. When is a soup a stew? When is a stew a soup? What's the space? I think it comes down to consistency. But like, yeah, I really love bean soups. They're one of my favorite things to eat, actually. Like a lamb broth, like a really nice lamb and beef broth with like fat white beans in it and like a little bit of vegetables. I especially like it, the like fennel green. Like chopped fennel green on top of that. I love that, Lots of black pepper.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Well, in Venezuela, there is like a super typical black bean soup. I just recently went to a pop-up of Aaron, who is a Venezuelan chef here in San Sebastian. And he did just that. He sent like the amuse-bouche was just like a small plate of black beans, like the same way you would have them in Venezuela. He's a Venezuelan chef. And also with this sour cream on top, like this just brought me to my childhood. And it was something so simple. You just have 3 bites of it. And I think like that's really cool what you just said with the cappuccino at the beginning of a menu or in a fine dining restaurant, because it really sets the tone. And it's something like really homey and comfy, like having, like a soup to start a menu.
Yeah.
What about onion soup? French onion soup?
Overrated. I think it's overrated.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the first things I cooked when I was a teenager, like when I started cooking things just by myself. And like, yeah, sure, it's okay. It's fine, but I'm not the biggest fan.
But having it like with a dark, strong meat broth and grating it with cheese on top, like the whole thing like that, you're just saying it's like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, sure, it's nice. Maybe I just haven't had the full, like the real onion soup experience, but like, it's okay. I wouldn't like look at it on a menu and be like, oh yeah, French onion soup,
Borscht?
Borscht, I really like. I love borscht. Yeah. I've had really good borscht. When I was in my first year of apprenticeship, when I started cooking, this Russian guy was passing through the kitchen that I was in. And he made borscht one time for some reason. And he made it with roast goose. And which is like not common at all, as far as I know. But he was a really good chef. And it was super, super delicious. And like a well-made borscht is really, really nice.
There's also this soup in Berlin that is kind of like a half vegetable cream, half chopped vegetables, like with sausages. Do you know which one I mean?
No.
Berliner Kartoffelsuppe.
I mean, yeah, but that's like a potato soup.
Yeah, but with sausages and little pieces of vegetables.
Oh, I mean, that's very common for a potato soup in Germany. That's not necessarily just Berlin. Yeah, like pieces of sausages and that. I personally really like a potato soup. Again, it's like one of those things where if it's like well made, it's absolutely delicious. But you just don't get it very well made a lot of the times, you know, which is a shame. But yeah, I could go for that. It's got nostalgia factor for sure, you know. Yeah, or mushroom cream soup. My grandma used to make mushroom cream soup, which I really like.
That's amazing.
Mm.
Well, I remember when I was working in this restaurant where we would make soups every day, the best seller for some reason was tomato soup, which I think is like, that's something I would never order, for instance.
True.
But I do know that a good potato soup is something really nice. There was a restaurant we would do one, which a chef started doing it. And then when we, like wrote the recipe down, he would add red wine to the tomato soup. And it was very good, man.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that. I really love tomato soup. Like, I really like one of the few things that I really like from the States. This like thing of eating tomato soup with like a grilled cheese sandwich next to it. I think that's really great. I love that. I actually just remembered a really outstanding soup that I had last year. It's one of the tastiest things I ate throughout the year. It was in a restaurant in Berlin called Baraf. And all the food was very nice, but they had a soup on, which was just a small cup of soup, but it was like by far the most delicious thing there. It was a sweet corn soup, and it was served with toasted hazelnuts, like quite a lot of brown butter, like kind of like swirled on top, and margarine.
Okay.
And it was so fucking tasty. Like brown butter, nuts, margarine, great, but like the soup, it was just like really smooth consistency, great sweet corn flavor, and just like perfectly seasoned, like to the point where it was almost too salty, but just almost. And it was a perfect example of kind of like just really, really well cooked. And it was like, you eat it and it's, you're left so satisfied,
I mentioned red wine, but also adding white wine to cream soups. I think it's a super good idea. That's like this layer of acidity and some fruity notes, which is cool.
For sure. Especially with vegetable soups. Like vegetables, they're so sweet in general, unless you're using like a tomato. But if you're using any sort of root vegetables or whatever, or onions, they're like very, very sweet. You need to sort of like counterbalance it. I also think like a small dash of like a white vinegar.
Yeah, for sure.
At the end of a soup, like a white balsamico or like a white distilled vinegar can really lift the soup. I think it's really good.
I really like adding a splash of vinegar when I do lentils, for instance.
Oh, for sure. For me, it's necessary, like at the end, adding like a good dash of vinegar.
That's it for this week's episode of Potluck Food Talks. If you like what we're doing, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok as Potluck Food Talks. The show airs every Monday.